A very good morning to one and all. Hope you all are healthy and fit at your place. So today we are here with a new video of communication. So here in this video we will learn about different methods of communication, process of communication, communication cycle and the effective ways through a communication can pass through. So for further knowledge about the topic, we will move to our window screen where we can learn a lot of things about the
Students,
communication.
here in this PPT, we will learn about the term communication. We will know that what are the effective features, what are the benefits, and what are the advantages of the good communication. So, first, let me discuss about what is a communication. The word communication is derived from the Latin word communis, which means the common. It is a process of exchanging of fixed ideas, opinions, and a means that individuals or organizations share the meaning and understanding with one another. Basically, it is the process of transferring or sharing the information between two or more than two peoples. It is a two-way process of reaching the mutual understanding in which participants not only exchange the information, news, ideas, feelings, but also create a share or also create and share a new meaning. Now, here the proper definition of the term communication is as follows. Communication is a process of sharing the experience till it becomes a common possession. It modifies the disposition of both parties who partakes it means the one who sends the message and the ones who receive the message. Communication is the sharing of the ideas and feeling in a mood of mutuality. So the next is the communication as a mean of persuasion to influence others so that desired effect is achieved. Basically, the scope of communication is not limited to only more than two peoples. Instead, it involves the whole society. A man is a social animal and he cannot remain in isolation. It is his basic need to interact with others. So for that, communication process is much more important and it plays a major role. Now, we will learn about the communication process. Communication is a two-way process or it is a process of exchanging the verbal and non-verbal message. It is a continuous process. Here, the one and who sends the message is called the sender and the one who receives the message is called the receiver. Sender sends the message to the receiver and receiver gives an instant feedback to the sender. Now, two-way communication occurs when the receiver sends response or feedback to the sender's message. In two-way communication process, the sender first transmit the message to the receiver. Here you have seen in the figure, the first sender sends or transmit the message to the receiver. And after that, receiving the message, the receiver decodes it and then sends back his or her reaction to the sender in the form of the feedback like this. So, it also includes an understanding of the message. In this process, one person is the sender and he conveys a message to the another person or a group of persons who is the receiver. An effective communication is a communication between two or more peoples where the instant message is successfully delivered, received, and understood. Now, for effective communication, we have to follow 7 C's communication. The 7 C's communication is a list of principles for written and spoken communications to ensure that they are effective. The 7 C's are clear, correct, complete, concrete, concise, considered, and courteous. Basically, communication is a meaningful process that involves the 7 C's, a sender and a receiver. While communicating, both should share a mutually accepted code, that is a common language. A message should be clear, it should be convey the right meaning to the others, clear, correct, and complete or the concrete. Listening to others is a very important aspect of effective communication. It is a process in which there is an input and an output. A meaningful communication results in response from the receiver. The next thing is essential skills for effective communication. Basically, most important, the role of the essential skills for this effective communications are: number four, the listening. One of the most important aspect of effective communication is to being a good listener. After that, first we have to listen all the things that is provided by the sender, and after that we have to give the feedback or the reply. First we have to listen all the things very carefully. The next is non-verbal communication. The words we choose make up just 7% of the message being conveyed, which makes non-verbal communication all the more important. Be clear and be concise means convey your message using as few words as possible. Be personable. When communicating face to face with someone, use a friendly tone with a simple word and ask a personal question. The next is be confident. Confidence underpins all the effective communications. Empathy. Empathy is the skill of being able to understand and share the feelings of another person. The next is convey the respect. Other peoples will be more likely to engage in communication with you if you respect them and their ideas. The next thing is impact of effective communication in our life. Number four, it encourages active participants in the group discussion and the cohesive teamwork. So, by using these, it is used to building the trust. Effective communication fosters trust with others, preventing or resolving the problems. The ability to communicate effectively plays a large role in the resolving or the conflict and preventing the potential ones from arising. The next is providing clarity and the direction. When our communication is effective, so it will provide a meaningful result to us also. With effective communication skills, you are able to deliver clear expectations and the objective to the other. In the result, you will get the good one things. Create better relationship. Good communication also improves the relationship both with employees and in your personal life with the friends and the family ones. It has the ability to communicate effectively, builds your confidence and equips you to respond and aptly in any situation. It basically, effective communication saves time and reduces the stress and the anxiety levels. Here we will discuss about the communication cycle. The communication cycle model is a linear model of communication that provides a systematic representation of the relation between sender message, medium, media, and the recipient one. The communication is a very complex process that happens orally, in written forms as well as in non-verbal forms, and in which the message that is being sent takes place in a certain context. Both the sender and the recipient can respond to each other in this model, with the sender and the recipient alternating roles. Now, here are few elements of the communication cycle. Number first one is the sender. Sender means the one who sends the message. The next thing is the encoding. Encoding means basically the formation of the message. The next is message means the information or the data that is to be conveyed. The next thing is the decoding. It is the interpretation of the message. After encoding, in the process of encoding, the formation of the message is to be done, and in the process of the decoding, the interpretation of the message is to be done. The next thing is the receiver one. The one who receives the message is called the receiver. The next thing is the response. Response can be given by the from the receiver's end. It can be positive or the negative one. The next thing is the feedback. It also termed as the response. So here we will discuss all the all the elements of communication cycle in detail. Number four, the sender or the encoder. Sender or the encoder is a person who sends the message. A sender makes use of symbols in the form of word or graphics or the visual aids to convey the message and produce the required response. Message is a key idea that the sender wants to communicate. It must be ensured that the main objective of the message is to be clear. The next is the communication symbol. The process of conversion of subject matter into the symbol form is called the encoding. This is called the communication system symbol. The message or the subject matter of any communication is always abstract and intangible. Transmission of message requires the use of the certain symbols. Next thing is the medium. Medium is a mean used to exchange or transmit the information or the message from instance from one sender to another receiver. Written medium is chosen when a message has to be conveyed to a small group of peoples, while an oral medium is chosen when spontaneous feedback is required from the recipient, as misunderstandings are cleared then and there. In the case of when the user wants the spontaneous feedback, then we will use the oral communication. But when the message is when in case of masses, the small group of people, then we have to forward the message. The next thing is the recipient or the decoder one. Recipient or the decoder is a person from for whom the message is intended, aimed, or the targeted, means the one who receive the message. The degree of to which the decoder understands the message is dependent upon various factors such as knowledge of the recipient, their responsiveness to the message, and the reliance of encoder or the decoder. Basically, at the end of the cycle, the recipient or the decoder provides the feedback, instant feedback to the sender one. Now, here are some barriers to the effective communication. Number 4, dissatisfaction or disinterest with the one's job. The next is inability to listen to others. The next is lack of transparency and the trust. The communication styles when they differ. Conflict in the workplace. The next is cultural difference and the languages. Now, the next and the main important topic or the most important topic is the method of communication. Basically, the communication means the exchanging of the ideas, opinions, or the information among the peoples that use different methods or the communication styles to express themselves. The choice of the method depends upon the various factors such as the urgency of the message, the time availability, and the expenditure involved. So, we have three methods of communication. Number one, the verbal communication. Number second, the non-verbal communication. And number third, the visual one. So, here let me discuss about the verbal communication first. We will also discuss here the advantages and disadvantages of the verbal communication. Verbal communication, it is an exchange of information using the words, including both the spoken and the written word. Means here we can use both spoken and the written words. The most important aspect of verbal communication are the following: the language, pacing, intonation, clarity and brevity, timing and the relevance. Basically, the verbal communication involves the use of words in delivering the intent message. Basically, there are two primary forms of the verbal communication that we have discussed here. Number one, the oral, means the spoken one, and the second one is the written communication. The oral communication means the expressing the information or the ideas through the spoken words is known as the oral communication or the spoken communication. Oral communication is a more natural form of communication than the written form. Here, the pacing means how fast or slow you can speak. If the speaker talks too fast, the receiver may not be able to absorb or interpret the message correctly. The clarity in the pronunciation means it refers to the speaking words clarity and correctly, including the correct sound of the letters with the proper emphasis. The next thing is the timing and the relevance. Timing and the relevance means we have to use the proper words and we have to keep our communication very brief, or we have to use the proper word, means the choice of word on a proper and the relevance timing. It basically, the choice of the word is just similar to the timing and relevance, like it refers to choosing the appropriate words while communicating, like where a remark about someone choose using two different words leads to entirely different interpretation by the receiver. Like the shoes are very cheap, The shoes looks shabby. So here the perfect word is the shoes look shabby. Instead of the shoes are very cheap. The next thing is the advantages of and disadvantages of the oral communication. Like it is an interpersonal and helps in building the relationships. The oral one, it is the cost efficient language. Now the disadvantage is it does not provide a permanent record and the message can easily be forgotten by the receiver. It has no legal validity. In the verbal communication, the next type of communication is the written communication. It involves sending message in the form of the written words to convey information. Written communication is the most formal form of the communication. So basically the advantages and disadvantages of the written one are written communication allow the sender to thoughtfully draft clear and comprehensive message. Written content has the legal validity. Disadvantage is the written communication requires time for drafting the message and it may involve the postages cost also. The next thing is the non-verbal communication. Information is the exchange through the non-verbal communication in various ways. Basically, it sometimes referred as the body languages. So the without the use of the words or the oral or the written thing, we use the non-verbal communication. It includes the body languages that we have already discussed, the gestures, the facial expressions, the eye contact, and the pointing fingers, etc. Like the facial expression, it is the most noticeable aspect of the non-verbal communication. The gesture means the conclusion, hand and the body movement, and the signs are an essential way to communicate without the words. The voice. Non-verbal speech such as the tone, pitch, volume, modulation, rhythm, and the rate and the essential elements of the communication. The next is the body language or the body space. So basically, we communicate numerous messages through our body language. It includes the facial expression, eye movement, hand gesture, posture, etc. For example, standing erect and learning forward communication to listeners that you are approachable and the friendly. So we have number of ways through which we can show our body language and show our interest in that particular topic. The next and the last topic is the visual communication. Basically, the visual communication, it is the practice of the graphically represented information to effectively and efficiently create meaning. Any verbal and non-verbal communication utilizing the sense of sight is known as the visual communication. There are many types of content in the realm of visual communication with examples including the infographics, interactive content, motion graphics, and many more. So basically, in the visual communication, we will use the graphically representation utilizing the sense of both the verbal and the non-verbal communication. Basically, visual communication skills involve the judicious use of visual aids to make a presentative and the lasting impact on the receiver's mind. Like we will use the graph, charts, maps, PowerPoint presentations, model papers, handouts here. These visual aids basically helps us to retain the information and understanding the concept. Here I'll provide you the data or I'll communicate with you in the form of the visual communication by using this PPT. So some of the advantages and disadvantages of visual communications are, first we will discuss the advantages here. The visual helps like graphs, diagrams, models, PPT make oral communication more meaningful. Its use of the visual aids make the complex data easy to comprehend. Basically, visual help make the communication more interesting. Now, a few disadvantages are some of the help used in the visual method of communication are costly. Maybe few of the things can be purchasable. It may be or may not be costly. Sometimes visual presentation of the information becomes complex. Sometimes visual techniques take much time to communicate. So that's all about the topic, the communication. I hope you all did get all the things whatever I have taught.
That's all about today's information. If you have any query, any doubt related to this, then you can ask me, you can directly call me, you can WhatsApp me, or you can drop a message in the Dropbox. And one more thing, that you have to complete your work on time and send it to me. Thank you. Have a nice day.